Hey everyone, welcome back to another TWiP Pro critique session. This is TWiP Pro critique session number 9. Troy Miller's here with me to step through some of the latest submissions to the TWiP Pro community. This is TWiP. So the submissions to the TWiP Pro community are coming fast and furious. We've got 10 images to step through. Actually, technically 9 because one of them is mine. But to help me go through these images is Troy Miller. He's back again, TWiP Pro member and photographer extraordinaire. Troy Miller, what's going on, man?
Hey, I'm happy to be here, enjoying the sunny day.
Is it sunny down there in Southern California?
It is. It's beautiful. Yeah, I'm wearing shorts and a beanie. It can't get any better than that.
Nice. Please tell me you don't have thigh-high socks on.
No, I don't. I had to look to make sure.
You had to look to make sure. I love it. Cool.
I do have hiking boots on though, so.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that, 90% of my socks are about that long. And I was schooled by someone younger than me, told me that, you're supposed to wear those little tiny footy socks now, which I hate. I hate those.
I don't wear them. I wear hiking socks all the time, and I just push them down. I don't even care.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who cares now?
I need to be functional.
All right. Let's dive in, man. We've got a ton of images. Like I said, 9, 10, including the one I threw in there to review. Any before we start showing the images, any overall thoughts on today's batch?
Yes. Wow. These are good. There are some really good ones in here, and I'm very excited to go through these. This is good. And then you made a call out a couple hours ago, and you've got 10 images waiting for you.
Right.
That's fantastic.
That's crazy.
So crazy. we haven't offended anybody too much yet.
Exactly.
They still want to try.
There's still time. To do it.
There's still time. I think it's maybe time to consider a TWiP Pro image competition. There's a lot of good images in there.
I 100% agree. And we got to make a get some manufacturers and some camera companies to put a nice cornucopia prize basket together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Very good.
All right, let's dive in. Pretzels, smoky salted almonds, and
cashews, maybe.
Yeah, you can tell it's pre-lunch.
A little whiskey in there, maybe. There you go.
I'll donate that. I'll kick in a whiskey bottle.
All right, there you go. You heard that, listeners. You heard that. So when we do this image critique competition, Troy Miller will be submitting whiskey. I'm thinking it may be slow hand whiskey. Right?
Oh.
So I'm just saying, if you can't be putting in cheap whiskey. You got to put the right stuff in there. This is TWiP, man.
Putting in some slow hand, yeah.
All right, the first image is from member Craig Stampley. He's titled this "SP Berries in IR." Look at this. And you and I were hanging out this past weekend, and you were shooting in IR. So this is perfect timing. What do you think of this image?
I dig it. I do. I really dig it. And I noticed that it looks like he did a little bit longer exposure to smooth the water and the clouds. I'm wishing that had been much, much longer, so those clouds really streaked across the sky.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like it. Having done a lot of infrared on my own, I would like to see the what would be the blue part of the sky behind the clouds, just brought down and really give this a deep, darker, more contrasty image.
Yeah, I agree. And I knew about the world of IR obviously before, and I've had a a Canon 10D back in the day. You remember those? I sent one of those off to have it converted to infrared, but I never really got into it for some reason. And then seeing you shoot, maybe it was because it was a DSLR, but seeing you shoot with a mirrorless Sony that was converted to infrared was eye-opening, literally, because it's WYSIWYG, right? It's what you see is what you get when you shoot that way, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. We'll have to do a, once you get your infrared camera
Yeah.
then we'll have to do a infrared processing class, because some of that stuff is just, there's so many cool ways to process it other than just making it black and white.
I know, and this image from Craig is it's beautiful. It's that thing about IR that makes you look at it because it looks surreal and alien. Like those
Right.
trees back there are just it's a beautiful shot. It's yeah. And what was you were telling me over the weekend? You were saying that there's some kinds obviously there's some kinds of surfaces and foliage that reflect infrared more than others that create the whiter tones, right? What are some of the rules of thought or rules of thumb when you're out shooting infrared?
Look through the camera a lot,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's so hard to tell. I mean, I know that if you look at a pine tree that has light coming into it, even if it's backlit, it's going to glow like crazy.
Hmm.
A oak tree, for example, is not going to do that. The oak tree has hard, waxy leaves. It doesn't take as much sunlight in and then reflect the infrared back. So you don't see that. Grass is translucent. So it really shows a lot of infrared light comes back from grass. So you just have to walk around and try to see the world in infrared. It reflects off things differently. It
Hmm.
bounces out of shadows on faces. It's all different.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
there's no standard rule of thumb.
Yeah, it's more it's almost back to kind of pure photography. It's experimentation. Like you said, look
Yeah.
through the lens, literally TTL stuff.
Yeah, I asked my optometrist, "Can I have a pair of infrared sunglasses?" And he said, "I don't even know what that means."
Hey, in the future, in the Ready Player One future, you'll have your goggles and you'll be able to say, "Yeah, I just want to see everything in infrared today."
Oh, God, it would be so great.
I feel like it's an infrared day. I feel like seeing that part of the visible light spectrum. Let's do it.
That's a thing, by the way, an infrared day. That's a thing. You'll walk outside after you shoot infrared for a while. You walk outside and go, "Oh, it's an infrared day." Or
Oh,
you leave the
really?
hotel and yeah, you go to drive into the valley in Zion and you're driving around. You're like, "Oh my gosh, this is an infrared day." Yep, that's a thing.
So
Another
look,
T-shirt. It's another T-shirt idea.
it's an infrared day. Look at that. Yeah. What would you looking at Craig's image? Anything else you would change, or would you just let this fly like this?
Other than just increasing sort of the saturation of what would be the blues and darkening them a little bit, and I may crop a little bit of the left off. I feel like after the peninsula ends, there's really no need to have a lot of that space there.
Hmm.
I'm kind of holding my hand up and looking at it, and I think probably crop a little bit of the left. But other than that, I dig the image. I think it's great.
Yeah, yeah, I like it too. I even like, I'm not a big fan of watermarks, but I like his watermark on here, right in the center. Boom! It just kind of it makes it feel gallery-ish or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's classy. No,
Yeah,
it's classy done. It's classily done. Yeah, I don't
yeah,
do a lot of watermarks either, if I can help it.
yeah. No, no, I love it. Good work, Craig. I don't have anything to add to that. So very good. Keep submitting. Keep submitting into the hashtag photo critique channel so we can keep looking at these things. All
That's
right.
right.
Are you ready to move on to the next image here?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this one is from Howard. It's titled Bed Frame in Cell. And here it is up on the screen now. I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts on this one?
I want to shoot this.
It's like, how dare you, Howard?
Yeah. I mean, like, where is this? I want to go. You submit these images, you taunt us and tease us. And I don't know where that's at.
Yeah.
I really like it. I really like the abstractness of it. What I would suggest, because I think the bed frame is sort of the subject here,
Hmm.
is, and it looks like he's probably vignetted it and burned it down a little bit, but probably desaturate the walls, maybe take some of that blue out or just bring it down to try to get some more emphasis on that bed frame. Even not doing that though, and I'm just sort of thinking it through as I look at it, I like it the way it is. I might try black and white
Yeah.
because this is more about the shapes and the void and everything.
Yeah. And I would say the same thing. I love this image. And obviously, the bed frame is this center of interest. I would probably try this in black and white and draw the attention even more because when I look at it initially, you're searching because there's so many patterns and there's vertical lines on the wall in the back and then the rocks on the right and then there's a lot of texture going on in this image. So
Right.
I'd want to draw the viewer's attention to that bed a little bit more, not without You know, he's got to think like we say before, like we were saying on many of the critiques before, where we talk about black and white versus color. Does the color add anything to the story or to the image that you're trying to tell here? And on this one, yeah, it does. But would there be even more emphasis on the bed if there weren't color in here? So I'd love to see a black and white implementation of this. Do you agree with that, or
Right.
do you lean on the color side?
No, I totally agree. I mean, you could tone it. It looks
Mm.
like there may be an effect on it that's giving it some blues and the highlights and things. I might tone it a little sepia. I might add a little bit of grain, give it a little bit of an older world, sort of a, like what you might see in a museum, the images hanging on the wall, give it more of an earthy feel. If I was to take this to competition, which I think it could go to competition, is I would try to clean up some of the distracting elements in the foreground, some of the pieces of rock, and I love the composition. I love the lower thirds, and
Mhm.
it definitely has a good story to tell. Now I want to know more about it. I want to know where that's at.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love it. I love it. Good
And
work. Good work, Howard. And thanks for submitting this. I want to see a model in there, though. I totally want to
oh
see.
yeah.
I want to see a model in chains or something in there. It's
Well,
cool.
you know what? See, now Renee could take this and she could put a model in there that she's already shot somewhere. This is a good background for. This is a
Oh
good plate.
yeah. Oh, for sure. This is part of a larger composition for Renee Robin for sure.
But remember, we talked about in the photo yoga about our inspiration, and I see her stuff, and I look at an image like this, and I'm like, oh, if I could only know how to do
Yeah.
that, I could do something cool.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Renee, I think Renee sees the world as parts of a future composition.
I see the world edited. It makes sense.
Yes.
I
Yeah. Again, Ready Player One, man, you'll be able to look at, you're like, you know what? This is an oversaturated HDR day. I want to I want to see everything just oversaturated. That's the way I feel. Or black and white. I feel low contrast black and white today. Right?
man,
Imagine if you could do that. Love it. All right.
brilliant.
So the next image I'm going to show is from member Mark Harris. He calls this one Reaching Back. What do you think of this one?
When I first saw this one, I was a little confused, trying to figure out what he's doing here and maybe kind of like what the story is that he's trying to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those kind of images that I struggle with from a technical standpoint because I'm looking at a hand that's maybe tweaked a little bit too much. The left ear is kind of popping out. I wish that was obscured with the hair a little bit. And then before we started talking, I'm looking at it in a thumbnail, and then it made me think of I couldn't even tell you who the artists are, but like a really old world. Make this really soft, add some noise to it, very
Yeah.
abstract, like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like figure study kind of stuff, right? Instead of more very detail. I can see all the detail. I can see the nails. I can see, really obscure this, bring it down, make it super dark and mysterious, and then I'm in. I'm sold.
No, no, I hear you. And what I was thinking, and I'm zooming in right now on the image. What I was thinking is, what if he cropped it really tight? Maybe not that tight, but if he cropped it tight so that it's you just below the neck, or just
Oh yeah.
right at the neckline, right there where the hair crosses the neck, and right below the bottom hand, to
Oh
make it
yeah.
more of like an abstract figure study. Like that photo. I forget who's the artist of that photo with a hand drawing the hand. It kind of reminds me of that. Like if you did something like that, and
Escher.
then with a some sort of post processing filtration on
Yeah.
it, right? Right. I
Yeah, it
mean,
looks like the Escher drawing. Yeah, where the two
yeah, the
hands are
Escher.
coming
Thank
in,
you.
and yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I don't know. You're not showing my video, hopefully, because I got my hands up. Dork,
I'm showing
I'm
your
like,
video now.
ah! But that's wonderful. No, that's really cool. Crop it square,
Hmm.
hand top, hand bottom. Bring the tone down, and I would grungerize this. That's what I would do.
Right, right. Just make it really gritty and just tactile, kind of.
Yeah, like it was shot on a glass plate or something or a Polaroid.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, yeah, it's really like, really rough. Yeah, and I zoom back out to the full image, and you look at the full image, which is fine, but you know, it's like what like her lower torso, is that adding to it, and her head, I can't see her, and there's that ear, like you said, is that adding to it? So I would definitely just crop this in just to the back of the hands, and then give it some sort of effect on it. It would look fantastic.
Right. Right. Ooh. See, I've got it in Photoshop. I'm playing with it right now.
Are you?
I am.
Show it. Show it. I want to see it.
I'm like, oh, that looks so good.
Yeah. Yeah, that could yeah, you should, you know what you should do? Like do some post processing on it and stick it back into TWiP Pro, so Mark can see what you did to it.
Yeah, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, this is definitely a cool image. I really dig what he did here.
Cool. All right. Well, this next image, and thanks again to Mark Harris for being brave and submitting, reaching back to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
This next image is from me. I made this a couple of years ago, and I'm not gonna make any comments on it. Obviously, it's my image, but I want to hear what you think about it. This is number 4, banana float. Here
Banana float.
You know, I originally named this Lorena Banana.
You did not, really?
You understand why?
I have no idea. No, I don't get it.
You don't get it? Lorena Bobbitt. You don't remember the story? Lorena Bobbitt.
Okay.
Who,
all right.
you know, yeah, that one. So,
Focus.
yeah. So, yeah, this is just a composite. I put this together. This was like an afternoon. I was just bored and had nothing to do. So I was like, I got some bananas in the kitchen. Went and grabbed a hanger from the closet, fed it through the banana, and, you know, propped it up on two glasses, shot a blank plate for the background, and then shot the banana all and shot the knife in place, and then just composited it all together and removed all
nice. That's nice. So for those who don't understand the term plate, it's basically the exact same camera shot without the subjects in it, so that when you remove something, the background is super clean, aligned already, and really easy to work.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So,
you know, I really like this one. As I was trying to figure out how it was done. And I was thinking, we have an image competition coming up pretty soon next week at IEPPV. So my brain is kind of in that image competition mode, and something like this would do really well.
Oh, cool.
I like the shallow depth of field, you know, from the sort of the tip, the knife down to the back end there. I wish that the peel wasn't buried in that lower left corner. I wish that it was kind of curled back and maybe, you know, so it's not crowding the corner.
Yeah.
But you could burn that down. And then just some of the highlight elements in the background. Looks like maybe it's a window or something's reflective off the microwave, because it looks like it might be a microwave back there.
Yeah.
Just remove some of those. I'm thinking competition now, right?
Yeah.
Just remove some of the bright spots, distracting elements. But I think it's clever. I think you should do that with all the fruits.
I was thinking of doing that. Honestly, this was the start of what I thought was going to be a series, and I may still do it, because every time I go to the grocery store and I'm in the produce section, I think of this shot, and I'm thinking, you know, what could I do with asparagus, and what could I do with, you know, apples, and what could I do with whatever, you know, or an orange unpeeling itself or something like that, you know,
right?
And have a series of just these kind of weird levitating, you know, double take kind of produce shots. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. That's really nice. I really like that. I didn't know that was yours. You didn't tell me.
I did, yeah. Well, hey, it's named in that directory I sent you. It just says Frederick though. But,
oh, yes. Yeah, I didn't look.
yeah, that's mine, man. That's mine. Yeah, I figured I better throw one in every now and then, so I'm critiquing everyone's work and not showing any of my own stuff. It's not fair.
No, it's good. No, it's awesome.
Cool, thank you. All right, let's move on. The next one is from Joe J. It's untitled. He didn't put a title on it, but it looks like. Let me bring it up on the screen here. It looks like it's some statues with some statues in the background. What do you think of this shot?
I think that this is a cool concept, and I think I know where he's going with this. The thing that I'm struggling with is an image like this is I wasn't there with him, and I don't know what he's looking at and what story he's trying to tell. So being a disconnected viewer, I have to try to, interpret what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And with an image like this that's so big and there's so many things going on in it, it's very distracting to me. I don't really know what the story is. I'm going to guess though that it's the center image. It's the statue that we see between the other statues.
The dark one, yeah.
The dark one, yeah, in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And that being the case, if that's the image or the subject, I would like to see it cropped in really close to that. Still use some of the foreground elements to create foreground and middle ground and maybe background for the sky, but crop that the way that you want the viewer to see it and not confuse them. Like I'm looking at the top, what's sharp up there. I'm looking at the tree in the back, that's sharp. A lot of bright stuff going on in the foreground with the out of focus. I think it's an elephant.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot for me to look at, and I'm not really sure where to land. A lot of open sky.
If this was submitted to an image competition, like put on that hat, like what would you say? What constructive criticism would you give to Joe J to improve this image?
I would say crop it to tell me the story, and work the image, meaning edit the image, dodging and burning and toning to really get the story out of this that you want to tell me. Because at the moment, I'm not quite sure. Because is there a relationship between the foreground elements and the statue? I mean, are they somehow connected historically? I have no way of knowing.
Yeah, I agree. My first thoughts when I looked at this one was I always search for the subject and the story in a shot, and I wasn't sure what the subject was. It's intriguing. This looks like it's probably a beautiful area. It feels like it's Rome or someplace like that. But I agree. In the center of the frame is that dark statue. If he'd cropped into her more so that we knew the viewer knows that this is the subject, and then everything else is supporting characters for that subject. Even the column on the upper right there is distracting because everything else is kind of, you got the wide swath of blue, and you got the beiges or lighter colors in the lower right, and then you've got darker browns and golds in the upper right, and then the black in the middle. Like all that stuff, it should be guiding me into the middle. Or, so if he's got, Joe J, if you got some other shots in this series, I'd love to see those where they're cropped a little tighter on the dark statue or another one of the statues. So, when you shoot these, in my opinion, you need to have in mind, like what's the story I'm trying to tell and who's the subject of this image. And if someone cold just looks at this, what is it going to tell them? Is that on track, you think?
Oh, I think absolutely. And something to think about too is as a photographer, when you're standing somewhere, you may see something that you're amazed with, but it also is an emotional response. Maybe you hear the sounds and the smells and you walked around and you saw different things, but the viewer doesn't have any of that. Yeah. And that's where sort of the lifelong challenge of trying to tell a story with an image that you may see clearly, but your viewers don't always get it. Yeah. And then when you're standing somewhere, ask yourself, how is this going to be different than anybody else who stands here? How do I make this shot different and still tell that story? And that's going to help improve the work and communicate your art.
Yeah. Yep. Love it. Perfect. Words to live by. All right. The next shot, and thanks, Joe J, for submitting that. There's another Joe J image in here that we're going to get to in a second. But the next one is from TWiP member Robert Evans. Robert is an award-winning wedding photographer. He's been on TWiP before. Robert. Do you know Robert personally, since you guys are kind of in the same?
I don't think I've met him personally. I've seen him on your show and
okay.
Admire his work. Yeah.
Robert knows his way around an image, and here's one that he submitted in for our critique. I'm almost afraid to critique this, but so.
Yeah, you got to put on your image competition judge hat.
Yeah. These aren't friends. This is nobody. This is no one I know. I have to look at it pragmatically, right? So.
Well, when you're judging in a room where there's 100 people there and you're judging their images, you have to walk out through them. So And
with people chanting shame, shame,
yeah, yeah.
shame.
And they will come talk to you. Trust me. They will come explain to you how, you judged it wrong.
Oh, I don't agree with you, but it's all subjective, right?
It is. Yeah, it's all art. But when you're doing competitions, and I sort of, to be fair to the people submitting, I look at everything sort of what's the final image if I was to put this in a competition. I try to really look at those things. And that's not always right for everybody.
Yeah.
But it just gives some context to where we're going.
Yep, I agree. All right, so this one is from Robert. He's titled this one "Ocean Walk." This is number 6. What do you think about this one?
I love the mood of this, and I love the toning that he put in there. I love that blue cast.
Is this a split tone, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a split tone, or maybe it's just the way that he set the white balance in the camera when he shot it.
Yeah.
He may have set it to cool.
Right.
The elements that I'm struggling with in this image is obviously the blown sky. I would love to see some texture in there. It doesn't have to be a lot, because I'm not good at dropping in skies, but I'm good at adding a little bit of texture.
Yeah.
And that would really help. And then the horizon is crooked. It looks like maybe it's level with the wall that she's on, but the horizon in the background is crooked.
And I was struggling with that too, because I could see what was going on here. So you're making edit decisions. You're like, okay, should the plank or the wall that she's walking on, should that be horizontal, or should I correct for the horizon? If you're faced with that kind of decision, which one do you go for, or do you do some manipulation to make them both horizontal? Because you can do that, right?
I do. I would fix it for competition. I would fix it. I would fix that horizon with the foreground. If it was for my client, I would probably go with the horizon. Okay. Because the foreground I could maybe crop and burn it down a little bit.
Sure.
Seeing her up there on that little wall, my first thought is like, man, I wish I could see her feet. And that would give her hands something to do, give her a bend in her right elbow. I'd love to see a bend in her right elbow and less of a clinchy fist. And other than that, but let's be fair, on wedding days, we don't always have time to do that. So I understand. I mean, 99% of my work is not image comp ready. It's real world stuff, and this is real world, and this is beautiful, and this is something that the client's going to absolutely love.
Yeah.
If this was to go to a client, the only thing that I would do is get rid of her left hand.
Oh, that's sticking out like that. Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. But that, I mean, the client and competition are different. So for client, I would get rid of that hand. I might drop some clouds in there to give it a little texture. Bride's not going to know whether there was texture there or not. And fix the horizon, and you're rocking and rolling. But
would you ever use a tool? There's in Photoshop, there's that puppet warp tool. Have you ever used that, where you can you could literally bend her arm a little bit, and put a joint at her elbow and one on her shoulder and one on her hand, and then bend her arm. Have you ever done like repose someone a little bit?
I have. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes that's what you need to do to get that little extra bit out of there. But yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, my thoughts on this one are, the first thing that hit me was the horizon. Yeah, so I would agree with you. I'd probably fix the horizon, because you've got two planes in there. You've got that wall and you've got the horizon. So I'd want them to be perpendicular to, is that right? Is that the right phrase? Parallel. Thank you. Perpendicular would be a T, right? So parallel. I'd want them parallel to each other. But you know what? The white sky doesn't really bother me that much. I mean, I could see, again, this is subjective, right? But I see where he was going for these kind of pastel muted colors, and sometimes the sky looks like that. So I would be okay with that. I kind of like the whites of the skies leading into the kind of aquamarine blue of the water, and then he's fed that into her dress a little bit, so her dress is picking up some of that. It's all overall is kind of a pastel look. Posing wise, I agree with you on that hand. Yeah, I'd probably get rid of that hand on her left hand, and a little bend in her elbow. I can't see if she's holding something in her right hand or not, but if she is, I'd probably get rid of that.
Oh yeah, maybe like a little clutch or a little something.
Yeah, or the prenup or something she's holding right there. She just signed the prenup. But I love it. I mean, this is a Robert Evans image. So Robert is one of those photographers. Like we were talking about Robert over dinner this weekend. Robert is one of those photographers
Mm-hmm.
that can look at a scene and just say, "Oh yeah, that's ISO 200 and this f-stop
Yeah,
and this shutter speed." Boom, in his
yeah.
brain. Which I'm a little bit there. I'd say I'm maybe 25% there. Where I can evaluate a scene like that, but not like that. You guys have
Well,
miles and miles of mileage on your shutter finger versus me.
yeah. Well, we have that parallel where I think he said in his interview with him and Martin Bailey is that he used to shoot Hasselblad, and
Mm-hmm.
it's expensive when you pull that trigger and you're shooting in EVs, which is exposure values. It's a single number that's a combination of shutter speed and aperture.
Yeah.
And we'd walk into a room and you'd have to start shooting. Grand entrance is happening. You don't have time to meet her. You walk in and go, okay, this is like a 12. Okay, I'm good. Or this is an 8.
Right. Right.
And there's no screen on the back.
Yeah.
You gotta know.
Back in the day, what was with the Nikon FM2 or the F3? I had an F3. I think that was my first camera in the military. Was a F3, and we just had a little meter in there, right? That would tell you overexposed and underexposed, and you'd work your exposure settings to try to get it as close to the middle as possible, and that meant properly exposed for gray, right? For 30, was it 30%
Right,
gray?
18% gray.
18% gray, yeah. So that's what that meant. If it was in the middle, the scene, as the computer, the dumb computer in that camera thought that, okay, this is good for 18% gray. So yeah, but it had no idea about highlights or shadows or pushing or any of that stuff. It was just like, okay, you'll get a decent image if the needle is in the middle.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. So this Robert image, any final thoughts on that one before we move on?
No, I think it's fantastic. I'm glad he's thrown images in there. I love to see those. Gives me
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, still Robert Evans ideas. Cool. All right, so for the next one, I'm gonna let's see. This is Joe J. This is another Joe J. image,
Yeah.
and he's titled. He didn't title this one, so this is untitled. And I'll let you go first. What do you think?
I dig it. When I just looking at the thumbnail, I was very intrigued by the color. I love the color palette, the sunlight just
Mm-hmm.
barely going down, so I kind of get that sense of feel. What I would really love to see in this image is lose a little bit of the bottom, maybe half the bottom, and maybe half of the right side. I'm thinking,
Mm-hmm.
or yeah, see, I'm struggling with that building because if you take the building out and you leave just the left two cranes, that tells a really cool story.
Oh, right.
I
Yeah.
like the building, so maybe a little too much on the right side,
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit too much in the bottom. My rule for cropping is if it doesn't add to the image, if it's not helping me compositionally, I crop it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the bottom for me. It's a lot of black.
Yeah, there's a lot of black down there at the bottom, and I agree with you. That in fact that was my comment. That building in there, it's interrupting the story because there's three cranes in there. I would love to have seen that building not in there. And this is obviously we don't know the story behind this, so maybe that building is important to the story that this shot is telling. But
Mm-hmm.
standing on its own, with that building out of there, it's just three cranes in silhouette, and so yeah, it could tell any number of stories from rapid overbuilding in a particular country to whatever, right? But with
Right.
the
Or it
building
looks
in there,
like
you're scratching your head, kind of like, what's the building?
yeah, or it's like a bunch of giraffes walking across the plain, right?
Yeah,
Like they're marching along. It's a cool shot.
yeah, yeah. Jurassic Park. Yeah, I love it. Cool. All right, Joe J. Thank you for submitting two, not one, but two images. So
Brave man, brave man.
yes, yeah, it was very helpful too. Cool. And welcome to the TWiP Pro community, Joe J. Thanks. It's good to have
Yeah.
you in there. All right, this next image, Troy, is from member Anslim. This is also untitled. I like this image. What do you think?
I love this image. This is great. I love the use of color. Obviously, this is somebody who understands how to use his lighting, which is so great. It's so cool. I don't do a lot of studio stuff. I used to, but when I see it being used like this, I really love it. I don't have a lot that I could really say to this. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
so well done. The pose is nice. The hands are bent. Um, Nitpicks, I guess. Let's go to the nitpick level. Would
Mm-hmm.
be the fingers on her left hand. I wish that was a little bit more relaxed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Her fingers look a little tense. Um, and bring the shine down on her chin and her lips a little bit. I like the highlight shine. I like that look, but I think that's a little bit much. And then a little bit more headroom. I feel like it's a little bit too tight for this image.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's intentional, trying to create a little tension in the space, but
Yeah.
that would be I don't have a whole lot else that I could say. It's exceptionally well
It's
done. I
cool.
think in an image competition like what we do, I think this image could score very well.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was my only nit. We're moving down to the nit level, right? My only nit is the headroom on the top of the frame, to have her down just a little bit, give her a little more breathing room on the top. But I love the lighting on this. I love the side lighting with the warm and then cool in the middle.
Mhm.
Her hair is awesome. This is a cool image. It makes me think of, like, I don't know, like 70s kind of Studio
Yeah.
54, that kind of era. It's very Vogue. It makes me think Vogue.
Right.
For
And good control of the light again, because red tends to overexpose really easily.
hmm
And there's detail, it looks like, in all of the red highlights. Maybe the left arm's a tad bit hot because it's closest to the light, but
hmm
that's good handling. Looking at it now, I might want to burn down her chest a little bit so that it doesn't draw from her face.
hmm
But that's we're at the nitpick level when we start talking
Do
about that.
you, like, when you're editing an image like this? What is the rule of thumb for being able to see the eyes, or having a catch light or something like that to bring out the eyes a little bit? Is it necessary, or just
There's two
or
schools
not?
of thought with that. There's this idea that there's no life unless there's catch lights in the eyes, and that goes to way back to traditional portraiture
Right,
methods.
right.
I don't care. I to be honest, and that's not a big deal to me. I want to see the emotion of the body and the face. If a catch light in the eyes helps that to happen, then by all means, improve the catch light. Other than that, like this image, I'm okay without it. It's a dark image. It's moody. Uh, it's definitely uh, I'm trying to think of the word. It's creative, and it's speaking to me like this is what the photographer wanted. I'm good with that. Let the eyes go dark.
Yeah, cool, good. Because that's also what I heard, and thank you, Anselm, for submitting this, about the whole idea of, you've got to have some sort of speckle in the eye, or else it looks dead, or the person doesn't have enough life if there's no catch light or highlight in the eye. And I think sometimes that may be, but just like, I think, like any rule in photography, there are no rules, right?
Right.
Not only that, everything is subjective. So if you like it like this, then who says that you have to alter it to meet someone else's standards? Unless it's
Right. And
image competition, then that's one of the criterion, right?
some judges are really particular, but let's put this in context. If you're doing a corporate headshot for an executive, his eyes better look awake,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a catch light,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
This is not that. This might be a modeling shoot. This might be a shot for a theater poster. This might be a self project. This could be for a clothing company. This could be so many of the things that catch light isn't as significant,
Yeah, this is
and that's
art.
okay.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
art versus this needs to go in an annual report next to 15 other images that look like it, right? This is
Right. I mean,
yeah.
maybe there's an executive out there who's like, oh, I want to have dark and scary eyes, then take the catch lights out.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. If you're doing a shot for, say, Marvel's annual report, then it's different than
Mhm.
than doing one for Uber, right? So
Right,
yeah.
right.
So different contexts. All right, let's move on. And thanks, Anselm, for submitting this one.
Yeah, thank Hansel.
The next image is from Kyle Nishioka. He submitted this one. This one's from Zion National Park. What do you think of this one?
I was just there.
Were you just there, really?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I
Oh,
was just there. It was
nice. Are
Wasn't
you
that
the one that
green?
piled those rocks up like that?
No. God, I got no patience for that.
You get like 3 rocks high and then walk away.
Nope. I don't even stack the rocks. I'm done. I'm moving on. I'm the guy that walks by and steps on that and goes, "Oh, was that important?" Because I'm looking at the sky and I'm like, "Ooh, infrared day."
Oh god! So you'd be aiming up and you'd bump into this rock pile and knock it over. You're that guy.
Probably.
Okay,
Probably.
got it.
Yeah.
All right, go for it. What do you think?
First, I mean, cool shot. I dig this. I could see this as a Zion poster, in one of the gift shops down there. I mean, this is classic Zion. I mean, right away, if you've been there, you like it. I like how the mountain slope on the left, that leading line brings us down, to the pile of rocks. I think that's really cool. I can see that it's a long exposure.
Yeah,
because we got that nice wispiness in the water. That's very cool. It was a little bit windy that day because I can see the trees on the far left extreme corner have blurred a little bit.
Okay.
So that really kind of shows off. I think for me with an image like this, there's so many things going on within the frame. I see 2, maybe 3 different photographs. I see the river with the rock wall. I see that as a photograph. I see these cool rocks, which they have a name, by the way. I don't even know. I forget what they call these. I see the cool stacked rocks and the river in the valley. That's another photo. Just the rocks themselves, maybe against the red as a silhouette or an individual sort of spire. But there's so much going on in this one. It's distracting. The background is sharp-ish, so that's keeping me looking into the image. But I don't see the rocks. So you could tune up that background a little bit, soften it, burn it down, bring up those rocks in the foreground. I would say that if you walk on something like this again, simplify that background as much as possible. Shoot down into the water, show that stream, isolate the images, remove as many elements as possible.
Yeah, I agree. And that's, again, great image. Thanks, Kyle, for submitting this. Great image. My first reaction was, okay, cool. Just like you said, this could be something in an article that represents Zion National Park or in the gift shop or hanging up on the wall or something. But you hit it right on the head. This is a bunch of good images combined into one, and my brain is competing for. We're trying to figure out which one is the image, right? Because there's the long exposure without the stacked rocks in there and just the long exposure for the running water and making that the focus of attention, both in post-processing and composition, then that's a cool image. But if you go shallow depth of field, pull back just a little bit, give a little more space on the right of the frame and make the stacked rocks the center or the star of the show, then that's a completely different cool image, right? Where everything else is kind of soft in the background and your eye is forced to look at the rocks and think about the tension and how those rocks are kind of put there, but right now you kind of look at those rocks, you're like, oh, some stacked rocks. Oh, look, water. Oh, wow, look at that sloped hill back there. Oh, look at the sheer cliff back, so there's a lot going on versus just one star of the show. That's what I took out of it. So it kind of matches what you were saying, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If I was to walk up on this, I would put on my 85-1.4. I would crop it, where the rocks are on the thirds on the right, and I might shoot that at 1.4 super shallow depth of field, where you could get the sense that it's in a valley, that there's trees and rocks and walls, but it's very evident that the rocks are standing out, with a shallow depth of field. That would be my first try. I would try that first. I'm always trying to isolate my subject and simplify my background as much as possible. And landscape is hard to do that. It's very hard.
Yeah. Because what's the subject? In a landscape shot, it's always what's the subject, right? Because it's the whole scene. Clearly, the whole scene, like in this shot with Kyle Nishioka, it's the whole scene. It's a landscape shot. But then we're saying, don't make it a landscape shot. Pick a horse and ride it. Is it the rocks? Is it the water? Is it the cliffs or whatever? So,
right. Yeah. And there's a lot going on when you're standing in that valley, and you could be standing in a mud puddle or whatever, and there's so much. Your senses are just an overload. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many things that you want to photograph, and it can be very distracting. I oftentimes will walk through there and I'll grab one body,
Mm-hmm.
almost always infrared, and one lens, and that's it.
Wow.
Because
And go hunting.
yeah, otherwise there's too many things that I could shoot. I'd never get out of the parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go with that infrared. You're teasing me, man. You make. I gotta get the infrared camera. Oh God. Cool. All right. Well, cool. Thanks, Kyle Nishioka, for submitting that one. We got one more image to go through. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. This one is from member Tim Engel. He posted this one in the critique channel, and I think he wanted to, I don't know if if that was a typo, but he titled it the @ symbol. So I don't know. Is this titled @ symbol, or is that a typo, or what? But anyway, this is a great image, and I'll throw that on the screen now. What are your thoughts of this one?
I love it. I mean,
I know.
this is exceptional. This is fine art portraiture. The pose, the lift of the chin.
Everything. Yeah.
You know, the only way to critique an image like this is you got to get nitpicky again. You know, the lighting is exceptionally well handled. There's a highlight in the eyes, the little space between her lips, that little moment. That's really nice. That's hard to get a model to do, or to get a subject to do that. That's not a model that doesn't understand that. It's a quiet moment. It's really exceptional. My only suggestions would be the dodging and burning on the head, on her hair. Maybe bring that highlight down a little bit because it's brighter than her face, and our eyes tend to draw to a brightest spot in the image. Maybe bring her hair down a little bit and her forehead just a tad. And I'm a big fan of seeing the neck. I like the neckline. And if she had twisted, don't change the face, just her shoulders, turned slightly to camera and shown off, what is that, like her clavicle or into her neckline a little bit, I think that would have been better from me. That doesn't mean that it's right or wrong or there's any sort of guidelines for that. I like that.
Yeah. And a lot of our comments is if you could go back in time and manipulate this model, this is how you would change the pose if you could go back in time a little bit. Right. Yeah, I agree with that. My thoughts on this image were like, this is classic Tim Engel, right? It is right. I mean, it is these like, where does he find these flawless models? These flawless model, flawless pose, great exposure. Tim is known for, like, if you ever go work with him in the studio, he's known for his simplistic lighting setups that are, part natural light, part found light, part, hey, this thing would make a good cat. Tim is like the MacGyver of photography. And then on the other side of the conveyor belt, this pops out, which is like, what? People work their entire lives to figure out how to do a shot like this. And he's like Doc Brown in the lab creating this kind of photography, which is fantastic.
That is understanding your craft. That is understanding how light works. That's understanding your vision. You're pre-visualizing that, knowing when you're shooting, just lift your chin for me just a little bit. Look over at the air conditioner on the wall, and that's that look. And that takes years of practice to do. And you can tell. I mean, it's clearly an amazing image.
Yeah, he knows his stuff. I love this shot. This is a classic shot, right? I could see this. Like, this is one of those shots where it looks good at this size that we're looking at, like on YouTube or on your screen or whatever. But it also, can you imagine this gigantic wall sized, right?
Oh,
it would just have that kind of, geez, like on one of those prints that you see in New York City where they cover the entire wall of a building, right? And then he's left space on the right for L'Oreal or whatever. Right?
Yeah. Now, on the right hand side, in like some really amazing font, it says, "Troy is awesome." Right?
Yes. Or this is TWiP, right?
oh, dude.
Hey, it's what I do, man. It's what I do. Come on.
I set you up for that. That's what I did. I set you up. That's what that's about.
It's like T-ball with you here. Come on. No, but congratulations, Tim Engel, man. Thanks for submitting this. This is fantastic. This is beautiful. And yeah, if folks, if you haven't already, check out Tim's work over at engelphoto.com. He,
Yep.
you know, Tim just recently had a gallery show, and I saw some work there that I've never seen him do. Right, it was like completely outside of his comfort zone, which is the mark of a good artist, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh no, that's very challenging.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. That's it. That's it for today's batch. That was a lot. I think we're growing. TWiP Pro is growing. And people are getting more comfortable. There's amazing conversations going on in there. I'm excited.
Yep.
I'm really excited about that.
No, I dig it. I dig it. Good job, everybody, for submitting.
Yeah, good job on the bravery, and yeah, we weren't too harsh. Joe, I think, was it Joe J? Joe J put a comment in there. He's like, "This is my first time submitting. Please be gentle." We're always gentle, not brutal.
Just being brave and put in two. That's what he commented on your request. So.
Yeah. That's interesting. Like there was this channel. Who was telling me about this? I think it was Thomas Hawk. He was telling me about this. There's this channel, or this group actually, on Flickr that was designed to be overly brutal on images, like the voice type brutal.
Wow.
And I'm like, there's a place for that. Like if you really want people to not be nice about your image, I mean, there's a way to grow from that. What do you think about that? If you're just like overly, like, I don't have anything nice to say about this image. You should have this, you should have that. What were you thinking? And you just do like the Simon Cowell.
I don't think so. It's like over disciplining a child, right? I mean, it's like there's a subtlety to getting your point across. And okay, maybe it's fun to sit and watch people's images get ripped apart. But if you're really trying to grow, if you're really trying to be a better photographer and grow your art, you want honesty.
Yeah.
You don't want somebody to be brutal, and you need context. So if somebody's brutal all the time, how do you know how you place? Did you improve? Is this image better?
Mm-hmm.
It's just brutality. So maybe it's fun to watch, like, a roast or something, but I don't think it has a place for growth.
Yeah, it's not going to help you get better. It's just going to, yeah, you're right. Entertainment value is one thing, morbid entertainment value, but if you're just trying to get better as an artist, yeah, you want constructive criticism, not just negativity for the sake of negativity.
Right, and I think not only constructive criticisms, but it helps to have criticisms with a foundational base, meaning that maybe it's the same set of people, or it's the same set of guidelines and rules, so that when you look at an image and you go, wow, okay, this is a snapshot and this is clearly a portrait, there's a standard there where you could look at your work, or what maybe work you've submitted, and change things and go, okay, it's improved, or, oh, I could do that. Like they said, that's amazing. I can do stuff like that. So that's, it's qualifying, right? It helps lift you up. And that's really what we want to do, is we want to lift people up so they can go out and create more work and do better. Right.
Yeah.
Get more satisfaction out of the hobby and do better in the profession.
No, yeah, absolutely. And looking at these shots, like these critique sessions there's multiple reasons for them. And one of the main reasons is to get people inspired and to see other people's work and hear what just normal people like you and I think about the work and some of the things, and you especially, because you're a judge, what do judges look at when they look at these kinds of images? What would be a detractor from a particular image that was submitted for competition, and what would be a positive? And when you think of it from that light, when you start talking about an image in judging competition terms, that's like far on the edge of normal consumer consumption of the image, right? Because all of these images, if you showed them to friends and family, they would have said, "Oh, wow, that's a great shot. Wow, you should go pro." Right. But then you take it out of that basket and you put it into judging, and it's like, it's like the beautiful person from small town that was the most attractive person in that town, and now they're in Hollywood and everybody's attractive, but they have to stand out still. Right.
Yeah. No, it's very true. And it's often said during an image competition critique, well, during the judging, because the judges do get to make a comment, is that, this would earn you green merits, or this would be fantastic for your clients. But here, right? This is where we're trying to show the very best of the best. So a little hair or a little turn of somebody's head or a little nitpick in the background. Well, that's, that's not perfect. So
Yep. Cool, man. Well, I think that's it. That's it for TWiP Pro Critique session number 9. Any last thoughts before we shut this off?
No, well, the same thing that I think we've said many times is congratulations to the people that are entering them. Keep entering, keep trying. Don't be afraid to enter. Ask questions. We're all here in the TWiP Pro community. Ask questions.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help after the fact. Let me know if something didn't make sense. But good job, everybody.
Absolutely. I echo that. And that's what the TWiP Pro community is there for. That's the community part of it, is ask questions. You don't have to wait for a critique. The critiques are great, and continue to submit your images into the critique channel, but you don't have to wait for that. You could submit your images just into general or into the, what do we have in there, member shots area, and say, hey, what do you think about this? Should I have done this? Should I have taken this line out? What about this horizon line? What do you guys think about the horizon?
Right.
And people will chime in and give you constructive criticism on your images. And then you rinse and repeat. And then if you feel like you want to submit something into the photo critique channel for next week's critique, do it. And then we'll dive into it as well. Right.
That's right.
All right. Well, cool, man. Well, thanks a lot for coming on. Your Spicy Jello and imageryconcepts.com, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So if you want to,
just like saying Spicy Jello.
I love that. Every time I say it, I feel it right here, right there. Spicy Jello. I'm going to start a competing website. I'm going to call it jalapeno jello.
There you go. Yeah.
Jalapeno jelly. Love it. Cool, man. All right. Well, thanks, man. I'll see you in TWiP Pro.
You got it. All right, buddy.
All right. Peace.
All right. Bye.
This is TWiP.